Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 12th of September 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Going up in the show, Valve announces the beta for the Steam Family Sharing System. Ouya's Free the Games fund comes under fire from developers, and Killzone Shadowfall abolishes the idea of XP in matches. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. It's been rumored for a little while now, but finally it's official. The Steam Family Sharing System is going into a limited beta very shortly, and it will allow you to share your Steam games with a small-knit group of family and close friends. The way that the system works is it allows you to authorize up to 10 computers to access your Steam library. This will appear as a separate entry in the drop-down boxes and allow you to access someone else's library if you are authorized to do so. This will then allow you to play the game with your own achievements as well as your own cloud save, which will be transferred over and usable by you if you decide to purchase the title for your own Steam account. What it will not allow you to do is play games at the same time as the account owner, and in this case the account owner will have full priority, meaning that as soon as he starts to play games, you basically get kicked off. Valve is asking users to join the Steam family group if they wish to participate in the beta, and will be inviting a very small number in the initial testing of around 1,000 users. So, let's talk about the specifics of this and the impact of it, and really if it matters all that much. So this to me seems like an answer to what we've been seeing from the Microsoft Xbox One systems, the sharing and all that kind of stuff. That was the stuff that was announced a while ago. A lot of that has unfortunately disappeared with the Xbox 180. But what this basically says is, look, this is an official way to share your account with someone without having to give them your username and password. That's perhaps the most important thing about this system. You can do exactly the same thing now. In fact, if you were to just give someone your login, it's actually going to be more beneficial because you give full access to the entire list of games. There will be restrictions on which games you can actually allow people to play. Yeah, and I imagine this is going to be on a publisher-by-publisher basis. They've already said anything that uses a third-party access key, an account or subscription, you won't be able to do that. But I would imagine that there will also be some publishers that just flat-out turn around and say, nope, don't let them do it. And Valve is going to have to abide by that because that's simply how the licenses work. However, we should of course bear in mind that giving your account details to somebody is a really bad idea, because, well, they can steal it. Not only that, but it's against the terms of service. Not only that, but you don't get this priority override that this system actually allows for. So, no one gets priority in that system. I know this because I actually have to hop between my tablet and my PC with Steam, and it's kind of annoying to do that, because one will force the login out of the other, and it'll then say, hey, you better enter this code in order to log in, and all that kind of stuff. What I was hoping for from this system was the ability to be logged in on more than one machine at once. Like, even just being able to do that would actually be fantastic. This is very important, I think, for people that have multiple machines and wish to play their games on multiple platforms. So like my Razer Edge tablet, for instance. I know it's a fairly limited niche of people that own these things, but for me, when I want a game on my tablet, I've got to log out of my Steam account and then download the game on the tablet, and it's an absolute pain in the ass. What would also be nice is if I could just be logged in on both to access my account. It's on the same damn network, for God's sake. But this doesn't seem to allow for that to happen. Again, I know there's ways around that. You could just take an external drive and transfer it after downloading it on one machine, but it is way more convenient to not have to deal with that stuff. It doesn't seem like this system is going to allow for any of that. However, that's not to say the system is a bad thing. I mean, I don't see this being bad at all, honestly. I don't see it being a negative. It just adds to the functionality of what we've already got. And frankly, it could be a good step forward for the future. If you were to look at, say, one of PC gaming's biggest problems, that being piracy, one of the ways you can get around that is to give people access to games to try them out. Yeah, they feel a little bit more secure buying them. Not only that, but the system seems to be designed with exactly that in mind. When you log on and try to play one of your games while one of your authorized accounts is doing it, they've got a few minutes to either quit the game or to buy it, which is a very interesting way of doing things. Not only that, but the fact that the cloud saves and achievements transfer and let you continue from when you left off if you buy it is yet another way for Steam to actively market a game to you. And I might say, oh, well, you know, it's really horrible that such a system would do that. But at the end of the day, they are allowing you to do something that wasn't previously possible. And if it increases legitimate game sales and does so in a fair way, then I see that as being a good thing. You're allowing users to try out the full version of a game before they buy it. This kind of gets around the demo problem almost entirely, as long as you actually have, you know, friends. It's always useful. You will be able to try out the full game instead of having to rely on a demo before you think, all right, okay, should I purchase it or not? So, I mean, I think it's a great system. It's just a shame that it's got some limitations to it that I would personally find useful. I don't find this system useful at all, really. I'm logged into my Steam account almost 100% of the time. I may need games at a moment's notice, and as a direct result, it's not all that handy. I also notice that it does say that you cannot both play games in the library at the same time. Does that mean that stuff like free-to-play games, which most likely will not be included in this at all, would also shut down my ability to share my library? Let's say I wanted to play, I don't know, War Thunder or something like that. And that's obviously not going to be a shareable game because it's an external account, yeah? So they've already blacked that out. But does that mean that my library locks down while I'm playing that game? Because a lot of us do play our free-to-play games through Steam now. As to why, well, it's usually good for updates for the most part, and it's also useful for being able to use, say, your Steam wallet to fund transactions, and every now and again you'll get a benefit for having it on Steam, so, you know, there's definitely a legitimate reason for that. And the more that happens, I think the less useful this system's going to end up being. Since those aren't shared anyway, I think those should actually be exempt, but I don't see anything in the description that suggests that that would be the case. But, you know, these are all kind of minor complaints for a system which looks to be pretty robust and useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in action. I also like the fact that they will allow 10 different devices and they don't have to be on the same network, and you can even respond to a request for access via email. I would really hope, of course, that they lock those requests down to people that are already on your friends list, because I could see that being the most annoying damn thing ever. God, just imagine, I mean, you already get phishing requests and things like that. Imagine what happens when a bunch of desperate 10-year-olds just spam every email address they know begging for access to video games. Oh, that would be infuriating. I wonder if it's possible to shut that down entirely. I'm hoping that you can avoid that. The Ouya continues to take flack over the so-called Free the Games Fund, which was a program where the Ouya's creators said they would match contributions given to games successfully funded through Kickstarter for the console that raised at least $50,000 and agreed to a 6-month exclusivity deal. The two games that managed to make their way through were Elementary My Dear Homes, which did get up to $50,000, and Gridiron Thunder, which is an American football game, which ended up with $171,000. The program has been plagued by controversy, with Gridiron Thunder receiving several suspiciously high donations of $10,000 apiece, with practically no explanation whatsoever. The game was successfully funded with only 183 backers, which means that the average rate of donation was $934 per person. This, of course, led many people to understandably believe that the whole thing was fixed, with some accusing the developers and Ouya of collusion, and others of simply saying that they deliberately used their own money in order to push it past the goal in order to get Ouya funding, which they considered to be unfair to the other projects that were competing for that particular prize. The controversy got even messier after the developers of Gridiron Thunder, Mogotext, threatened to sue a commenter on the Kickstarter page. This particular commenter claimed to have evidence of wrongdoing and was threatening to reveal all unless they came out and admitted their faults. The other title that reached its goal was in fact suspended, and it remains in limbo to this very day, with its future remaining somewhat uncertain, to say the least. Ouya released a statement on the matter, however, it didn't really address the concerns. The chief of Ouya, Julie Ehrman, said in a blog post that the response to the Free the Games Fund surprised us. We thought this was going to be great, how could it not be? We launched the Free the Games Fund to find great games for the very platform that gave us life. They then went on to say, the truth is openness is hard. Being open means everything is fair game, and it means sometimes things don't work out exactly as you hope. And it goes on and on and on, but doesn't actually say anything. And I think that's the main problem there. The developer of the one and only Thomas Was Alone, which of course I like very much, goes by the name of Mike Bethel, said that the post was not an acceptance of criticism or an explanation of how clearly dodgy as hell the schemes that are being supported by Ouya actually were. It reads like a press release from a console company locked into a foolish policy and using aspirational language to shift the blame onto critics. Other developers have also responded negatively, with the dev of Rose and Time by the name of Sophie Holden removing the game entirely from Ouya, saying that she is no longer comfortable supporting the Ouya company and their inability to admit that they screwed up is causing all manner of problems and damage to the reputation of the platform. Jeez, this is just ridiculous. How much more controversy can this bloody console get into? I mean, it is only a $99 Android console, but it's incredible just how much nonsense it's managed to actually accumulate over the course of a few months. And like, half of me says, you know what? It seems a little bit odd. It seems to me like someone is just deliberately trying to smear this particular company. And I know that it had a bad response on stuff like Reddit, who just didn't see the use for it. But then again, we are talking about the PC gaming master race. Why the hell would they care about the $99 Android machine? Of course they wouldn't. They're not the target demographic, and I've said this time and again, but it just seems like there are so many bad calls surrounding this particular machine, and this campaign was just silly. I mean, it really was. You didn't honestly think that there would be some degree of exploitation there, and Kickstarter can't effectively police that. If the money's going through, then the money's going through. If it's coming from a bunch of really high dollar amount donations, then so be it. As to where that money's coming from, it's pretty difficult for Kickstarter to actually look into that. And frankly, do they even have an incentive to do so beyond the reputation and credibility of the platform, which maybe that's enough. I mean, they have suspended Elementary My Dear Homes for suspicious activity, but they didn't suspend Gridiron Thunder for even more suspicious activity. I mean, sorry, $10,000 donations. The problem is just the spikes, yeah? Because there's very few donors to this damn thing. And if you look at it, there are these spikes of massive amounts of funding from small numbers of people. The first 4 days barely got anything. Then there were 2 spikes of $10,000 each. And then there was a bunch more days of basically nothing, then a spike, then a spike. It is very, very suspicious. Like, to the point where this is not how Kickstarters usually look. Kickstarters usually build momentum as awareness for them rises. But in this case, that's not happening, and there weren't enough donors for this to possibly be legitimate, as far as I'm concerned. I could be wrong, I really could, but it seems so unlikely that I am and that everybody else is. But I suppose the problem really comes down to the fact that the contest didn't really provide for any of those things happening. And how are you supposed to police that? If it gets past 50k, how does Ouya know whether or not it's not just a bunch of very wealthy people that happen to be supporting it? In the case of Gridiron Thunder, apparently there was a fairly high-profile NFL star that liked the game, so, you know, maybe he's the guy that was able to get his friends together and support it with large donations. It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. The fact that Ouya's not willing to take it on head-on, though, I think is the biggest condemnation. They're dodging the issue. Like, if they had that kind of credibility and they realized, oh no, our reputation is at stake and the integrity of our contest is at stake, then they would bloody well look into this. And they haven't. They're just dismissing it. It's like, hey, look at how successful this American football game somehow was. Yeah, right. You know, that doesn't sound right at all. This seems like a nice and easy way of getting a bunch of money. You'd think that Ouya would be more concerned about that. I mean, they're handing money over to them. And if there's dishonesty going on, then who the hell knows? And not to mention this whole legal battle that's going on. Jesus. Ah, what a mess. What a mess. If Ouya is not careful, it's going to solidify its reputation as a drama-ridden towerfall machine. Not what you want. This is a bit of old news, honestly, because information about this was released at Gamescom, but I feel like I want to talk about it anyway. If you've been watching this show for all that long, you probably realize that some of the topics that come up on it are things that I personally find interesting and are worthy of discussion, not necessarily super topical news. And let's be frank, In the gaming scene, there isn't necessarily a bunch of super topical news, so I want to talk about this and the fact that Killzone Shadowfall has supposedly jacked in the idea of experience and also allows access to all abilities and weapons from the very get-go. As a high-profile console FPS, you would not have expected that to be the case. The vast majority of these titles as they come out are progression-based multiplayer systems, and games that have done that have enjoyed success. However, it seems like Shadowfall wants to move away from that, and in doing so, they have decided the best way to do things is to give you access to all of the abilities and weapons from the get-go, and have add-ons for the weapons be unlockable via a challenge system. They claim that there are 1,500 different challenges that you can do in order to unlock ranking, which will allow you to get access to these weapons. So it's not a complete abandonment of the experience and progression idea, but it is a good step away from it. It's what I feel is a reasonable compromise. Now, I suppose the question you might be asking me is, why do I feel that there needs to be a compromise to begin with? I think we are getting to the point where there are so many games with in-game progression systems that they're not respectful of our time. As much as you may argue that, oh, well, everything's balanced, don't worry, these are just side grades, more often than not, I find that is not the case, and when you jump into a first-person shooter for the first time, you will be at a significant disadvantage because you do not have access to certain things. Now, games have tried to mitigate that in the past with things like the default loadout system, for instance. That's something that Call of Duty does. It gives you a good set of abilities and weapons to begin with, and then you create your own class as you go through. But at the end of the day, if the balance isn't there, which it more often than not isn't, then that doesn't necessarily work out all that well. More to the point, and this is a more cynical way of looking at it, yeah, surprise, surprise, right? I believe that these progression systems are more often than not implemented with the idea and the desire to keep you playing for a long period of time. And it's like, why is that bad? That's totally fine. Every game wants to do that. Yes, but they're doing it because these games are also service platforms that are out to sell you 4 to 5 map packs worth of DLC over the course of the year. That means that they can more than double their profits significantly. I mean, we're already talking about the idea that you're selling a map pack for $15 a piece, 4 to 5 map packs a year, so that totals up to about $75, which is more than you paid for the game to begin with, but more to the point, they have a much higher margin on those things. Map packs cost way less to make than a video game. I mean, they're making huge amounts of money that way. And the way that they keep you interested, to keep you buying that, is to have that progression system in the first place, and to have means of resetting it. And it's almost getting to the point, I think, where an awful lot of people actually desire that progression system because it's that little dopamine release. It's that little treadmill that they're on. It's like they get a little badge, they get a little ranking, it just keeps them going. It's kind of the way that World of Warcraft used to do things with the questing system, which now, of course, is so passé, but back in the day, it was like that little reward every 10 minutes, that little just one more quest that just keeps you going, that little badge, that little nice pop-up. It's actually the same principle I feel it's used for an awful lot of cow clickers and Facebook and iOS free-to-play games, and it's a little insidious, actually, and it doesn't necessarily lend itself to good game design. This I kind of like. There is something that I dislike about it, and that's the idea that it's a challenge-based system to unlock stuff, and those challenges can often be a little bit gimmicky. I get the whole, get a 2-to-1 KD ratio, that actually promotes you playing well. Admittedly, sometimes in an objective-based mode, you might have a bunch of people trying to kill whore instead of actually trying to do the objective, which could be problematic, so they've got to be careful about how they balance it, but challenges are often a little bit gimmicky and force you to use subpar weapons or combinations and things that actually end up harming your team. And more to the point, if this is the only method of progression, you may find that in these team-based multiplayer matches, a lot of people are just chasing the challenge. They're not actually chasing the objective. And as a result, you have people just running around all over the place doing nonsense and not the optimal thing to actually win the game. This could very much frustrate competitive players. But I do like the fact that they give all weapons from the start. That's awesome. We are seeing a couple of games moving back in that direction. Recoil, which is coming out quite soon on PC, has like over 40 weapons. They're all available from the very start. And I think that we're heading back in that direction. That's good. That's very, very good. I do not enjoy the process of unlocking guns anymore. I find it disrespectful to my time. I find it to be a waste. If I want to play with a gun, just let me play with that damn gun. Let me do that. Let me unlock something that doesn't really matter as much. Let me unlock something like camo. Let me do that. Don't force me to unlock my favorite gun. It's like, oh, well, the gun that I like is at rank 79. Yeah, it sucks to be me. That's not a good system. So I'm hoping that more games move back in that direction, and I think Shadowfall is a good first step in that respect. Alright folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go, I'd like to give you the OC remix track that you are all no doubt desiring right now, and if you're not, you're certainly doing it wrong. So, how about a River City Ransom track? Yeah, we should kind of do that. There's currently a Kickstarter running for an official sequel to River City Ransom, and it's probably one of the most amusing Kickstarter videos I've ever seen, so you should definitely go and have a look at that. However, I would like to give you a version of a River City Ransom track that goes by the name of River City Rammstein. Oh yes, this is by Mazedude, who makes some pretty weird stuff from time to time, and I very much like the fact that he does that. It is an industrial rock track, it is a lot of fun, and it is the song, the mid-boss theme from the 1989 NES brawler, River City Ransom. I'll see you next time.